Number 15. The Crypto Sculpture. Nestled within the grounds of the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, stands a curious sculpture named Kryptos. Created in 1990 by artist Jim Sanborn, this copper sculpture, shaped like a curving S, mimics a piece of paper emerging from a printer. But Kryptos is no ordinary piece of art. It is a cryptographer's dream, a puzzle that has challenged the best minds for over 3 decades. Kryptos is adorned with 4 encrypted messages, separated into distinct sections. The first 3 parts of the code have been solved, but the 4th remains a mystery, unsolved after more than 30 years. Sanborn, who is not a professional cryptographer but a sculptor, took just one brief course in cryptography and managed to create a cipher that even the brightest at the CIA and skilled cryptographers worldwide have yet to fully decode. The first 2 passages of Kryptos were encoded using the Vision-Now cipher, a method of encrypting alphabetic text by using a simple form of polyalphabetic substitution. The cipher uses a keyword, and each letter in the message is shifted according to the corresponding letter in the keyword. The strength of this cipher lies in its ability to encode the same letter differently, depending on its position in the message. However, its weakness can be exploited through Kościuszki analysis, which involves guessing the keyword's length and then deciphering each letter of the key. Between subtle shading and the absence of light lies the nuance of occlusion. It was totally invisible. How is that possible? They used the Earth's magnetic field X. The information was gathered and transmitted underground to an unknown location, X. Does Langley know about this? They should. It's buried out there somewhere, X. Who knows the exact location? Only WW, this was his last message, X. 38 degrees, 57 minutes, 6.5 seconds north. 77 degrees, 8 minutes, 44 seconds west, X. Layer 2. The third section of the sculpture uses a different approach, a transposition cipher, where the letters in the message were rearranged. Sanborn's paraphrasing of archaeologist Howard Carter's account of discovering the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh king Tutankhamun adds a historical touch to this section. Slowly, desperately, slowly the remains of passage debris that encumbered the lower part of the doorway were removed. With trembling hands, I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner, and then widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in. The hot air escaping from the chamber caused the flame to flicker, but presently details of the room within emerged from the mist. X. Can you see anything? Q. But it is the 4th passage that has baffled everyone. Despite Sanborn giving out 4 clues over the years, the final message remains undeciphered. Cryptographers and enthusiasts alike have speculated over the method and key used by Sanborn, but the brevity of the passage makes it a particularly tough nut to crack. Theories range from simple to complex encryption methods, but the true solution remains elusive. The significance of Kryptos extends beyond its role as a piece of art. It has come to represent the eternal dance between codemakers and code breakers, a testament to the power of secrecy and the human urge to uncover it. Sanborn himself has hinted that if he were to die before the 4th passage is encrypted, the solution would be auctioned, ensuring that the mystery of Kryptos will eventually be revealed, one way or another. As time marches on, Kryptos continues to intrigue and challenge, an unlikely guardian of secrets at the very heart of one of the world's most powerful intelligence agencies. It represents the intersection of art, cryptography, and mystery, a puzzle waiting for its final piece. The question remains, who will be the one to unlock the last secrets of Kryptos? Number 14. K. Alana Turner. The Turner family from Maine had been living in a state of disbelief and despair for 407 long days. Every day, they pleaded on Facebook for any information that might lead them to their missing daughter, Kay Alana, who had gone missing in Tomball, Texas. One day, however, their search took a turn. Tim Miller, the resolute founder of Texas EcuSearch, let the anxious family know that human remains had been found by his volunteer search teams. Since the day in March of 2023 that 27-year-old Kay Alana disappeared, Texas EcuSearch had been unwavering in their efforts. Miller and his dedicated team had conducted at least 20 exhaustive searches. The area where the remains were ultimately found was dense with weeds and thick woods. Kay Alana's last known whereabouts were in Tomball. She had been experiencing a severe mental health crisis. She was seen on multiple Ring doorbell cameras, appearing disoriented and confused. On one, she appeared to believe she'd arrived at her friend's home. She fell asleep in someone's driveway, exhausted and distressed. When deputies attempted to wake her, she panicked, fleeing in her car and driving off erratically until she crashed into a wooden area. Despite the immediate efforts of the police, she exited her vehicle and vanished into the dense forest, leaving behind nothing but a cold trail. For nearly a year, search teams braved the underbrush and the elements, but each day they returned empty-handed. Yet Texas EcuSearch never gave up. Their perseverance was a testament to their commitment to their work, encouraged by the Turner family's unyielding hope. During what was scheduled to be their final search, the team made a grim discovery. The remains, found about 900 feet from where Kay Alana's car had last been seen, brought a mix of sorrow and relief to her loved ones. The proximity was a cruel reminder of how close she had been all along, hidden by the unforgiving landscape. The discovery of the remains plunged the family into a new kind of agony. While they had clung to the hope that she might be found alive, the reality of her death was now undeniable. Their focus shifted to finding answers. For the Turners, the past 407 days had been a grueling journey marked by heartache and uncertainty. It ended with a confirmation that their worst fears were realized. Although no foul play was suspected, the mystery of what truly unfolded in the final hours of Kay Alana's life remains. Number 13. The Oklahoma Girl Scout Murders. In the summer of 1977, a serene Girl Scout camp in Oklahoma was transformed into a scene of horror that haunts the state to this day. Camp Scott, nestled in a wooded expanse of Mays County, was a retreat that promised adventure and camaraderie. But the dreams of the campers turned into a nightmare when 3 young girls, Lori Farmer, 8, Michelle Goosey, 9, and Doris Milner, 10, were brutally murdered on their first night at the camp. The camp, set against the backdrop of dense forests and meandering trails, had been a beloved summer destination since 1928. Operated by the Girl Scouts, it offered a haven for girls to explore, learn, and grow. That June, a bus from Tulsa's Girl Scout headquarters brought over 130 excited campers, including Lori, Michelle, and Doris. These young campers, eager for a summer adventure, couldn't have known the tragedy that awaited them. Lori, Michelle, and Doris had been assigned to be roommates in the same tent. The night of June 12th was stormy, adding to the eerie atmosphere as the girls settled into tent number 7, which was situated at a secluded edge of the camp near the woods. This would be the last time they were seen alive. The following morning, their bodies were discovered around 150 feet from their tent, shocking the camp, the community, and the nation. The brutality of the crime was appalling. The girls had been raped and bludgeoned, their young lives cut short in an act of unspeakable violence. The discovery set off a massive investigation, with authorities scouring the camp and surrounding areas for clues. They pieced together disturbing signs of a premeditated attack, including a note in a ransacked cabin, found several months earlier and dismissed as a hoax, warning of an intention to kill 3 girls. Suspicion soon fell on Jean Leroy Hart, a local man who was a convicted rapist and escapee from a nearby jail. Hart, a member of the Cherokee Nation who had been living in the area, became a prime suspect in the case. The largest manhunt in Oklahoma history ensued, leading to his capture in April 1978. Hart's trial became a focal point of national attention, but despite the circumstantial evidence and allegations, he was acquitted in 1979. The acquittal did little to quell the speculation and theory surrounding the case. Some pointed to other potential suspects, like William Stevens, a convicted rapist seen near the camp around the time of the attacks. Others pondered the possibility of multiple assailants. The mystery deepened in 1989 when DNA testing confirmed Hart was a potential suspect due to certain genetic markers, but the results were not conclusive enough to close the case, as the markers investigators were able to extract could be linked to several thousand other members of the Cherokee Nation. In 2023, Cherokee citizen Faith Phillips, a novelist, screenwriter, and legal expert living in Locust Grove, brought forward compelling new information. Following a tip from a former Mays County sheriff, Phillips learned of a man named Buddy Bristol who allegedly confessed to participating in the murders while in prison. According to Phillips, Bristol claimed that he, along with several others, went to the campsite on that fateful night. He asserted that while he was present, another man, whose identity he revealed, was the one who committed the actual murders. Shockingly, the other individuals named by Bristol are still residing in the community. Phillips revealed that one of the men implicated in Bristol's confession is Native American. Consequently, because the crime took place in Locust Grove on the Cherokee Nation reservation, it is now under the jurisdiction of Cherokee Nation law enforcement and is being investigated by Cherokee marshals. Phillips acknowledged the sensitivity of this case for the victims' families, stating that while she does not wish to speak on their behalf, they too have expressed an interest in continuing to work to uncover the truth. This fresh investigation, spurred by new evidence and a legal shift, offers a renewed chance for justice and closure in a case that has haunted the region for over 4 decades. The murders left an indelible mark on the community and the nation. The camp was permanently closed, and the families of the victims were left with unanswered questions. The Oklahoma Girl Scout murders remain a subject of fascination for crime enthusiasts, and a painful, unsolved chapter in Oklahoma's history. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-522-8017 or email tips@osbi.ok.gov. Number 12. Rebecca Gabriella Nuno. In the historic town of Cedar Hill, Texas, Rebecca Nuno's life changed unalterably on the evening of May 31st, 2005. As work came to an end, the 21-year-old bid farewell to her co-workers as she finished up her shift. Yet for Rebecca, the journey home would become a harrowing ordeal that would leave her loved ones in despair. Her co-workers shortly received a phone call from Rebecca, who whispered a desperate plea. "I've been kidnapped." The call dropped, and then silence. From that moment, 21-year-old Rebecca vanished into the void, leaving behind only suspicion of what had happened to her. She indeed appeared to have been taken against her will, perhaps a victim of human trafficking. She may even have known her abductor. After 2 weeks without answers, another phone call, this time to her parents. The voice was again a whisper, as she insisted they stop looking for her. She spoke in Spanish and would not confirm if she was all right, or if she was even in the US. As investigators hit dead ends, they did arrive at a description of a suspect. a Hispanic male, possibly driving a green Honda or a black Chevrolet truck. She was believed to have been taken either to Florida or to Mexico, but no further traces of her have been found. Information on her case can be directed to Duncanville Police Department, 972-780-5037. Number 11. Max Greenfield. In March of 2018, Max Greenfield made his way from Brookings, Oregon, across the state line into Smith River, California. It was a routine journey for the 25-year-old, often ending at the Lucky 7 Casino, one of the major entertainment draws in the otherwise quiet town. This night started like any other weekend night. Max met his sister, Tanya, with whom he was close, for a drink at the casino. Little did anyone know, this would be the last time they spent together. Tanya dropped Max off at their mother Andrea's house, as she often did. Andrea, familiar with her son's routine, laid out his medication on the counter before retiring herself. The next morning, when Tanya reached out to confirm plans with her brother, she was answered with silence. By early afternoon, Andrea's worry escalated upon finding Max's medication undisturbed on the kitchen counter. This was uncharacteristic of Max, who maintained a strict regimen due to his mental health condition. Not long after, Andrea reported Max missing to the Curry County Sheriff's Office. Details began to emerge. Max had messaged friends late Saturday night, seeking a ride back to the Lucky 7 Casino. Surveillance footage confirmed his presence at the casino later that night, showing him arriving in the early hours of Sunday, March 18th. But what followed would plunge the investigation into obscurity. Footage captured Max conversing with a white male outside the casino, a seemingly fleeting encounter that would become pivotal to the investigation. They walked south across the parking lot, away from the cameras, and vanished. Max left no other digital footprint, as his phone was reliant on Wi-Fi for communication, and never reconnected after leaving the casino's network. Detective Jaron Gill of the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office assumed control of the case, doing his best to unravel the details of Max's final hours. Interviews with acquaintances revealed some of what happened that evening, yet there were no solid answers. Despite exhaustive searches with cadaver dogs scouring the region, no sign of Max or his belongings emerged. Most notably, his distinctive black duffel bag filled with cherished art supplies, which he took with him wherever he went. The investigation took a grim turn as Detective Gill voiced suspicions of foul play. The absence of Max's personal effects, coupled with witness statements hinting at withheld information, painted a troubling picture. Tanya appealed for public assistance, offering a reward for any lead that might bring her brother home. Where had he gone that fateful night? In the small, quiet towns of Brookings and Smith River, nothing was more unheard of. A missing persons case turned homicide investigation, and this case is still open, 6 years on. Any information regarding Max's case can be directed to Detective Jaron Gill at 707-465-2468. Number 10. Serenity Denard. The cold morning of February 3rd, 2019, dawned crisp and clear in the Black Hills of South Dakota at the Children's Home Society, where 9-year-old Serenity Denard lived due to mental health challenges. Serenity was known for her adventurous spirit and infectious smile, a young girl who brought light to those around her despite her tumultuous past. That morning, Serenity was playing in the gym with other children. Her caretakers, as usual, kept a watchful eye. But in the chaos of activity, Serenity saw an opportunity. She slipped out of the building unnoticed, blending into the sprawling, wooded surroundings. The staff realized Serenity was missing just minutes after she left, and immediately launched a search. Panic set in as they scoured the grounds, calling her name but to no avail. Despite the cold, Serenity had ventured outside without a coat, heightening the urgency of the search. Every minute that passed felt like it could be death. Temperatures plummeted into the night. The community came together to search, driven by a shared hope of finding the little girl before it was too late. The Black Hills posed significant challenges. The dense forest and rugged terrain created numerous hiding places and obstacles. Time lapsed, and hope faded with each passing hour, and then with each passing day. Serenity's guardians and loved ones pleaded for information, but none came. The story of Serenity Denard's disappearance spread, drawing national attention, with experts offering theories and volunteers arriving from different states to join the search. Yet despite the massive effort, Serenity remained missing. And then, in November of 2019, doorbell camera footage was released. A young girl arriving at a stranger's doorstep, pleading for help. Could it be Serenity? For a moment, hope sprung. The likeness made some think it might be the missing girl. But Serenity's own family disputed this notion. They viewed the footage and said, unfortunately, it isn't her. The girl in this footage was never identified or found either, leading to a whole new mystery that, too, remains unsolved. The Children's Home Society and the community continue to honor Serenity's memory, holding vigils and fundraisers to support search efforts. Her room at the home has been kept as it was, a reminder of the little girl who vanished into the woods. Any information about Serenity's case can be directed to the Pennington County Sheriff's Office at 605-394-6115. Number 9. The Lead Coffins of Chase Vault. In the quaint town of Oistins, Barbados, a vault within the cemetery of Christ Church Parish Church has a centuries-old mystery hidden inside. This vault, known as the Chase Vault, appears unremarkable at first glance, but it harbors an inexplicable mystery that continues to baffle locals and visitors alike. The story begins in 1724, when James Elliot purchased the vault. Its first occupant was his wife, Elizabeth, interred in 1792. The vault changed hands in 1807, bought by the Walrond family, who allowed Elizabeth's coffin to remain. But when they opened the vault to lay Thomasina Goddard to rest, they were met with a startling sight. Elizabeth's coffin had vanished without a trace. Despite this unsettling discovery, Thomasina's body was placed inside, and the mystery of Elizabeth's missing coffin remained unsolved. A year later, in 1808, the Chase family acquired the vault. The first to be buried was little Mary Ann Chase, who tragically died at the age of 2. Her small coffin joined Thomasina's in the eerie stillness of the crypt. 4 years later, Mary Ann's sister Dorcas, driven to madness by her father's cruelty, starved herself to death. Her father, Thomas Chase, followed shortly after, taking his own life. When Thomas's body was to be placed inside, the vault was opened to a scene of chaos. All the coffins were scattered about, as if tossed by an unseen force, despite their lead construction making even moving them into place incredibly difficult. Dorcas and Mary Ann's coffins were found standing upright against a wall. Speculation ran wild. Had vandals broken in and tampered with the coffins? The vault's heavy marble door was still sealed, and nothing inside had been stolen. The coffins were repositioned, and the door was sealed more tightly than before. Yet the mystery deepened with each subsequent burial. In 1816, when young Charles Brewster Ains was laid to rest, the vault was found in disarray once more. The heavy lead coffins, including Thomas Chase's, appeared once again as if they had been violently thrown around, yet no natural disaster had occurred since the vault was last opened. Later that year, Samuel Brewster's interment revealed the same chaotic scene, and in 1819, Thomasina Clark joined the array of disturbed coffins. On some occasions, the coffins were found broken or partially open, with skeletal remains exposed, fueling fears of supernatural interference. The strange occurrences caught the attention of Lord Combermere, the governor of Barbados at the time. He devised a plan to solve the mysteries. Sand was spread on the floor of the vault, and the entrance was sealed with cement. However, when the tomb was reopened in 1820, the coffins had once again moved, but the sand remained undisturbed, indicating that no one had entered, at least no one human. The decision was made to remove the coffins from the vault and bury them separately. The Chase vault now remains empty and unsealed. Various theories have been proposed over the years as to what may have occurred inside the vault. Some suggest that an earthquake might have shaken the coffins, but no seismic activity was recorded in Barbados during the relevant years. Others speculate that flooding caused the coffins to float and shift, yet this fails to explain how the sand remained undisturbed. And so, the mystery remains, and the vault keeps its secrets. Number 8. The Circleville Letters. This is the tale of a pen pal that no one wanted. In the late 1970s, the quiet town of Circleville, Ohio, became the epicenter of an unsettling mystery. Residents, businesses, and government offices began receiving anonymous letters that threatened to expose their darkest secrets. The letters claimed an almost omnipresent knowledge of the town's happenings, their sinister tone leaving the recipients in a state of perpetual dread. Mary Gillespie, a local bus driver, received one such letter in 1977. "I've been observing your house," it read ominously. "Stay away from Massey." The letter's author seemingly knew of her affair with Gordon Massey, the school superintendent, a secret Mary thought was well hidden. This wasn't an isolated incident. Across Circleville, others received similarly threatening letters, including Mary's husband, Ron Gillespie. Ron's letters were even more alarming. "Mr. Gillespie, your wife is seeing Gordon Massey. You should catch them together and kill them both. He doesn't deserve to live," one letter read. Despite the threatening nature of these messages, the Gillespies initially tried to dismiss them, hoping they would stop. But the letters persisted, escalating in intensity and frequency. "Gillespie, you have had 2 weeks and done nothing. Admit the truth and inform the school board. If not, I will broadcast it on CBS, posters, signs, and billboards until the truth comes out." And the mystery didn't stop at mere correspondence. One August evening in 1977, Ron received a phone call that seemed to push him over the edge. He grabbed his .22 caliber revolver and stormed out, telling his daughter he was going to confront the letter writer. Hours later, his truck was found crashed into a tree. Ron was dead, the revolver having been fired once. The local coroner ruled it an accident, but suspicions of foul play lingered. Despite Ron's tragic death, the letters continued unabated. Mary Gillespie and Gordon Massey remained prime targets. In 1983, the terror came to a head when Mary narrowly escaped a deadly trap. A sign targeting her daughter led her to a box rigged with a loaded gun. The gun was traced back to Paul Freshour, Ron Gillespie's brother-in-law. Freshour's estranged wife, Karen Sue, told the police that Paul had written the letters. She had found them hidden in their house. Freshour denied everything, claiming the gun had been stolen weeks before. In 1984, Freshour was convicted of attempted murder. An expert witness testified that evidence indicated that Freshour had written the Circleville letters. Residents hoped that his imprisonment would end the torment, but in a surprise twist, the letters didn't stop when the alleged perpetrator was in custody. Even with Freshour behind bars, Circleville's mailboxes continued to be filled with threats and accusations. The prison warden confirmed that Freshour had no access to writing materials. Freshour himself received a letter from the anonymous writer while incarcerated. All eyes turned to Karen Sue. Her boyfriend matched a witness description from the booby trap crime scene. This led some to ask, was this all a setup? As the years passed, the mystery only grew. In December 1993, when the TV show Unsolved Mysteries investigated, they received a letter warning them to stay away from Circleville. Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, UL sickos will pay. Paul Freshour was paroled in 1994, the same year the letters inexplicably ceased. He maintained his innocence until his death, and despite a recent forensic examination revealing similarities between his handwriting and the letters, no definitive proof has ever emerged. Decades later, the identity of the Circleville writer remains unknown. Number 7. Praven Verghese. In February 2014, Praven Verghese, a 19-year-old student at Southern Illinois University Carbondale, vanished into the cold, dark woods surrounding Carbondale, Illinois. His body was found days later, sparking a mystery that has gripped the media and the public for more than a decade. Recently, NBC's Dateline series reignited interest in the case, shedding new light on the unanswered questions and the Verghese family's fight for justice. On the night of February 12th, Praven attended a party. He left with a newfound acquaintance, Gage Bethune, and another individual. The trio drove around Carbondale, reportedly searching for cocaine. According to the two people Praven was with, an argument broke out in the car, leaving him to flee into a wooded area along East Main Street. The temperature had dropped into the low teens, and Praven was not wearing a coat. When Praven did not return home, his family reported him missing. 5 days later, on February 18th, his body was found in the woods bordering Illinois Route 13. The initial autopsy concluded that Praven had died of hypothermia. However, his family was not convinced. After the funeral home suggested a second autopsy, they ordered one. Dr. Ben Margulies, who conducted the autopsy, found evidence of blunt force trauma, including 2 bruises on Praven's head and a cut on his nose. Charles Stagmeyer, the Verghese family attorney, claimed that the second autopsy was never presented to the grand jury. The findings from this second autopsy raised serious questions about investigators' initial conclusion of hypothermia. In the wake of Praven's death, his family was vocal about their lack of belief in the police's conclusions. Praven's sister, Priya Verghese, insisted that Praven was too smart and resourceful to have ventured into the woods alone without calling for help. The family filed a lawsuit alleging that someone had beaten Praven and abandoned him in a wooded area. They claimed that this person was Gage Bethune, the individual who had given Praven a ride from the party. In 2017, Gage Bethune was charged with Praven's murder. Prosecutors argued that Bethune, then 22, had beaten and robbed Praven, causing head injuries that left him disoriented and led to his death from hypothermia. However, the murder conviction was thrown out by a Jackson County judge in September 2018. The judge ruled that no evidence presented at trial proved the claim that Bethune's actions directly led to Praven's death. The legal battle continued, with no clear resolution in sight. The case resurfaced in the media, particularly through the efforts of Dateline and social media platforms, which brought renewed attention to the unanswered questions surrounding Praven's death. Dashcam video from the night of Praven's disappearance showed Bethune coming out of the woods and telling a state trooper he had picked up a black male hitchhiker. The trooper later reported that Bethune's story seemed questionable and that he felt Bethune was lying. Further complicating the case, a video showed Carbondale police interviewing Bethune in the days following Praven's disappearance. Bethune admitted to getting into a fight with Praven and hitting him in the face with a closed fist. However, he also claimed he feared for his life. Praven's family continues to seek justice, convinced that the investigation was mishandled and that foul play was involved in their son's death. Praven's mother, Lovely Verghese, has been outspoken about her belief that racial biases and a lack of thorough investigation contributed to the failure to uncover the truth. As the media and public continue to follow this case, the question remains, what really happened to Praven Verghese? Number 6. The disappearance of Joseph Force Crater. Joseph Force Crater's story begins in the small town of Easton, Pennsylvania, where he was born in 1889. His early life was unremarkable, but he was ambitious and determined. Crater pursued higher education with vigor, eventually graduating from Lafayette College and then Columbia Law School. His intelligence and charisma served him well, and soon after completing his education, he began to climb the legal ranks in New York City. Crater's rise to power was rapid. He quickly became a well-known figure in the New York legal community, moving into influential circles that included businessmen and politicians. His career took a significant turn when, in April 1930, he was appointed as a judge to the New York Supreme Court by then-Governor Franklin D. Roosevelt. This position was a testament to his success, but also placed him at the center of New York's political and social elite, a position that came with its own set of risks and entanglements. Judge Crater was known for his affluence and socialite lifestyle. He was ubiquitous at high-profile events and was known to associate with various famed figures, some reputable and others more dubious. His connections with Tammany Hall, the powerful New York political machine known for its corruption, made him a subject of controversy and speculation. The mystery surrounding Judge Crater began on August 6, 1930. Judge Crater and his wife were vacationing in Maine when the judge received a phone call, after which he told his wife that he needed to return to New York City on urgent business. Crater's actions on this day were peculiar. He removed and destroyed documents from his office, cashed checks worth a considerable sum of money, and then attended a Broadway show after dining with friends. He was last seen walking down a street in Manhattan after the dinner, and from that moment, he vanished without a trace. His disappearance sparked widespread media attention and public speculation. Various theories were proposed. Had he been murdered by organized crime figures or political enemies due to his legal and political connections? Did he decide to disappear voluntarily due to personal or financial problems? Or was he the victim of a personal vendetta or love triangle? Despite extensive investigations and numerous potential leads, none of these theories could be definitively proven. One of the more sensational aspects of the case emerged many years later when a letter surfaced, written by the widow of a New York police officer. She claimed her husband had been involved in Crater's murder, and that his body was buried under what is now the New York Aquarium. However, despite this lead and the public's enduring fascination with the case, no conclusive evidence has ever been found to confirm this theory or to solve the mystery of Judge Crater's disappearance. As the years passed, the mystery of Joseph Force Crater became part of New York folklore, symbolizing the corruption and intrigue of the Tammany Hall era. His case remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American history, a narrative woven from the fabric of New York's roaring 20s and the dark underbelly of its political landscape. Despite numerous investigations and the passage of time, the fate of Joseph Force Crater remains unknown, his story a lingering question mark over New York's history. Number 5. Cassandra Landrum. In the small town of Union City, Georgia, loved ones are still left wondering decades after Cassandra, known as Sandra, Landrum's disappearance on a late September day in 1975. It was an ordinary evening when Sandra left her family's cozy residence to head towards a payphone at a Dairy Queen just half a block from her home. It was a journey she'd made countless times in the past. Little did anyone know that this would be the last time she would set out on it. As dusk settled, 18-year-old Sandra failed to return home. At first, authorities brushed off her disappearance due to her youth, assuming she had ventured off on her own accord in a bid for independence. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the truth began to settle in. Sandra was gone, and someone unknown may have taken her. Just as the town began to resign itself to the haunting silence of unanswered questions, something changed. Sandra's parents found themselves on the receiving end of a series of anonymous phone calls, each one a chilling reminder of their daughter's unknown fate. The voice on the other end whispered claims that Sandra had met a tragic end. She'd been murdered. Despite exhaustive searches and relentless inquiries, no trace of Sandra Landrum has ever been found, and the anonymous caller has never been identified. Nearly 50 years on, Sandra's fate, potentially hinted at by those eerie anonymous phone calls, remains unknown, and her family still seeks closure. Information about this missing person can be directed to Union City Police Department, 770-964-1333. Number 4. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. In the annals of American history, few mysteries are as perplexing as the disappearance of the Roanoke colony. It all began in August 1587, when a band of 115 English settlers landed on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Led by John White, this landing marked the second attempt to establish a permanent English settlement in the New World, following a failed endeavor 2 years prior. As the settlers began to build their new life, they faced an urgent crisis. Their supplies were rapidly dwindling. It was decided that Governor John White would sail back to England to gather the necessary provisions and bring them back to the burgeoning colony. He left behind his wife, daughter, infant granddaughter, who was the first English child born in the Americas, and the rest of the hopeful settlers. Upon reaching England, White's mission was immediately thwarted by circumstances beyond his control. The country was on the brink of war with Spain, and Queen Elizabeth I had ordered all available ships to defend against the Spanish Armada. White was therefore stranded in England for 3 long years, unable to return to his family and fellow survivors. When White finally made his way back to Roanoke in August 1590, he was met with silence. As his ship approached the island, he noticed that the settlement's walls had been fortified, indicating that it had thrived for at least some time after his departure. But there was no one in sight. The Roanoke colony was abandoned, and the only clue to the fate of the colonists was a single word: Croatoan, carved into a wooden post. This cryptic message suggested a connection to the nearby Croatoan island, inhabited by a friendly Native American tribe, but it provided no concrete answers. Over the centuries, the fate of the lost colony of Roanoke has baffled historians. Theories started to proliferate. Some believe the settlers were killed or abducted by hostile Native American tribes. The Croatoan carving might indicate that they sought refuge with the Croatoan tribe, yet no definitive evidence supports this hypothesis. None of the settlers revealed themselves when other Englishmen encountered the tribe. Other theories propose that the desperate colonists tried to sail back to England themselves, only to be lost at sea. Some suggest they may have met a violent end at the hands of Spanish explorers making their way north from Florida. Another possibility is that they moved further inland, integrating with more hospitable tribes, their European heritage blending into Native American culture over time. The empty settlement, the cryptic Croatoan carving, and the vanished lives of 115 settlers weave a tale that continues to captivate historians and laymen alike. In recent years, the quest to uncover the truth has taken a modern approach. In 2007, researchers began collecting and analyzing DNA from local families to identify any genetic links to the Roanoke settlers or Native American tribes. However, this method has yet to provide concrete answers, and so we wait. Number 3. JFK. On a November morning in 1963, just a few hours before the world would change forever, a switchboard in Oxnard, California hummed with activity. A seasoned operator with the General Telephone Company picked up the line just after 10 a.m., expecting a routine call like those she dealt with dozens of times per day. Yet, instead of a clear voice on the other end, she encountered only static, a fuzzy noise that immediately indicated that something was amiss. Perplexed but vigilant, the operator remained attentive, her ears pricked for any sign of distress from the person on the other line. Then, suddenly, she could hear a whispered voice. Perturbed, she beckoned to a coworker to hop on the line to hear this caller. "The president is going to die at 10:10, the whisperer rasped, leaving both operators stunned. Glancing at the clock, they noticed that 10:10 was just minutes away. A few moments passed, with both operators stunned and unsure how to proceed, before the voice amended their earlier prediction: the president is going to die at 10:30. Dismissed initially as the ramblings of a troubled mind, the operators disconnected the call around 10:25, blissfully unaware of what was unfolding in another part of the country. At that very moment, President John F. Kennedy's motorcade was cruising the streets of Dallas for the last time. At 12:30 p.m. in Dallas, Texas, which was 10:30 a.m. California time, a gunshot shattered the nation. The assassination of JFK continues to be shrouded in mystery and speculation 60 years on. Many are familiar with the layers of conspiracy surrounding the assassination. Investigators and armchair detectives alike have speculated about multiple shooters, internal government conspiracies, and even tragic accidents. But many people are not aware of the Oxnard call, as reported by the Star Advertiser in 2013. The phone call, even half a century later, is just one of the many cryptic footnotes in a saga rife with unanswered questions. An FBI report made at the time indicated that the call was reported to them around an hour after the shooting. The Oxnard Press Courier and Ventura Star Free Press chronicled the anonymous call, their headlines echoing the nation's bewilderment. Details emerged. The caller remained veiled in anonymity, but reports describing the voice like that of a middle-aged woman. The operators recounted the whispered prophecies. The voice had whispered, "The justice, the Supreme Court. There's going to be fire in all the windows. The government is going up in flames." And later, the government takes over everything, lock, stock, and barrel. The operators, who eventually ended the call thinking the person on the other end was mentally ill, recalled as many details as they could. According to an FBI report, it was their impression that the unidentified woman caller was quite disturbed. Disturbed or not, the timing makes this mysterious phone call even more disturbing. Even more so when on the other side of the world, another mysterious call came in, this one to a British journalist at Cambridge News. The journalist lifted the receiver to words whispered by an anonymous voice. "Call the US Embassy for some big news." The call then disconnected. Perplexed yet intrigued, the journalist dialed the number to the American Embassy, where he relayed the cryptic message to officials. 25 minutes after the Cambridge call, the president was assassinated. In shock and disbelief, the British journalist relayed the details of the anonymous call to the authorities, which sparked a flurry of activity among intelligence agencies on both sides of the Atlantic. A memo, dated just days after the president's death, outlined the call, its timing eerily coinciding with this turning point in American history. As time marched on in the wake of the tragedy, much like the switchboard operator in California, the British journalist continued to wonder about the identity of the mysterious caller and their eerie premonition. Neither calls led to any leads, but neither caller was ever identified. Number 2. The Ghost Ship of the Arctic. On a cold day in 1969, in the frigid expanse between Icy Cape and Point Barrow, Alaska, a group of Inupiat hunters stumbled upon a haunting sight. A rusting hulk trapped in the freezing ice. No name was visible on its weather-beaten frame, but they knew it could only be the Beichimo, the legendary ghost ship of the Arctic, last seen 38 years prior when her crew abandoned her to the elements. The ship, swallowed by time and ice, should have sunk long ago. Yet, in the 54 years since her disappearance, no wreck was ever found. Up until that point, the Beichimo's disappearance remained a mystery, haunting the frozen seas. The ship's tale began in 1914 in the shipyards of Gothenburg, Sweden. The stout, steel-hulled cargo steamship was built for German owners and designed to withstand the harsh, ice-laden waters of Northern Europe. For years, she faithfully plied the Baltic ports, a workhorse amidst the chaos of World War I. With the war's end came a twist of fate. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to relinquish many of its ships as reparations. Among these spoils was the Beichimo, handed over to Great Britain and sold to the Hudson Bay Company in 1920. The ship embarked on a new life in the Western Arctic of Canada, navigating from Vancouver to the Yukon and Northwest Territories. By all accounts, the Beichimo was unremarkable, a lumbering vessel of iron and steam. Yet she was resilient, her reinforced bow slicing through ice floes with relative ease. The Arctic's capricious weather and shifting ice were constant threats, but the Bechimo and her crew endured, surviving close calls and harrowing storms. In 1924, the HBC ship Lady Kindersley was trapped off Point Barrow, drifting north in an implacable ice pack. The Bechimo arrived too late to rescue the crew, but stayed to recover the cargo. It was a grim reminder of the Arctic's unforgiving nature, a prelude to the Bechimo's own fateful year of 1931. Captain Sidney Cornwell, a seasoned mariner, led the Bechimo through the icy labyrinth. But 1931 was different. Cornwell warned his superiors of the ship's inadequate strength, but economic pressures drove the HBC to push her onward. By late July, the Bechimo was in a fight for her life near Wainwright. For weeks, Cornwell battled the elements, navigating between towering ice cliffs. On August 21st, a break in the ice allowed them to anchor at Port Barrow, but the delay was costly. As September turned to October, the situation grew dire. A storm severed a propeller blade, stranding the ship. With supplies dwindling, Cornwell ordered preparations to abandon ship. On November 24th, a blizzard struck, and when it cleared, the Bechimo had vanished, leaving only a mound of ice in her place. Presumed sunk, the Bechimo became a ghost. A week later, trappers spotted her drifting aimlessly. Cornwell and a few men tried to reach her, but were thwarted by the broken ice. Over the next few years, the Bechimo was seen sporadically, but eluded capture. In August 1933, the crew of the schooner Trader encountered her near Wainwright. They boarded her, finding bales of furs and other remnants of the ship's past life, before a storm carried her away once more. The Bechimo's legend grew, her sightings rare and mysterious. In 1962 and again in 1969, she reappeared, only to vanish into the Arctic fog. The Bechimo's final resting place is unknown. Artifacts from her storied past reside in the Museum of the North at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, visible witnesses to the legend of Alaska's true ghost ship. Number 1. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. Nestled within the Superstition Mountains of Arizona lies a legend as rich and alluring as the purported treasure itself. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. This legend, woven together from Native American folklore, Spanish colonial expeditions, and the rugged dreams of prospectors, has become ingrained in the fabric of the American Southwest. The origins of this fabled mine trace back to the indigenous peoples of the region, including the Pima and Apache tribes, who whispered of a land containing untold treasures and hidden wealth. The Superstition Mountains, named for the aura of mystery they evoked, were revered and feared, believed to be the home of spirits and untold secrets. The story gained momentum in the 19th century, intertwined with and underlined by the tragic tale of the Peralta family from northern Mexico. They were reputed to have unearthed a rich vein of gold within the foreboding mountains. However, their fortune was cut short in 1848 when, laden with gold, they were ambushed by Apache warriors in an area now known as the Massacre Grounds. The few who survived fled back to Mexico, leaving behind them a trail of blood and buried secrets. The mine, however, remained lost to the sands of time, until it allegedly found its way into the hands of a German immigrant, Jacob Waltz, dubbed the Dutchman despite his true origins. Legend has it that Waltz rediscovered the mine with the assistance of a Peralta descendant in the 1870s. Together with his partner Jacob Weiser, Waltz worked the mine and secreted away caches of gold, often rumored to be hidden near the iconic Weaver's Needle rock column. Fate, however, would not be kind to the pair. Weiser met a grisly end, murdered by Apaches, or perhaps, as some whisper, by the hand of Waltz himself in a moment of dark greed. Waltz's story concludes in Phoenix, where he spent his final days plagued by ill health and haunted by a secret he could never fully reveal. On his deathbed in 1891, he confided the mine's whereabouts to Julia Thomas, a kindly neighbor who had been caring for him. But the cryptic clues he left behind were a labyrinth with no exit. Thomas, like countless treasure hunters after her, scoured the Superstition Mountains but returned empty-handed. The legend of the Lost Dutchman's mine has since become a magnet for adventurers, each drawn by the lure of gold and the mystery of its cursed history. The mountain range has claimed many lives, fueling rumors of a sinister force that guards the hidden treasure. Some speculate that the mine's elusiveness is a cosmic punishment for those who dare to desecrate sacred ground, while others believe it is merely the natural peril of a treacherous wilderness. In the present day, the Lost Dutchman's gold mine remains one of America's most enduring legends, speaking to the human yearning for wealth, adventure, and the unknown. The Superstition Mountains continue their watch over the secrets they keep, and challenge the bravest souls to uncover what may be hidden there.